Hi there. I'm finally getting round to answering some of those questions that you asked about myself and my relationship with my pilgrimage. So, just getting straight in there, Dawn and Chris asked about my feet. How do I manage without getting blisters? Basically, I so close to getting a blister a couple of days ago. But I mean, that's over 700 miles. So, and it hasn't come to anything. So, I firmly believe it's because of my footwear. I wear Vivo Barefoot textile trackers, and I pair them with merino wool walking socks, which are like the lightest sort of walking sock. I've used darn tough socks and I've just loved them. They wick away the sweat. So even though your feet feel warm, they are actually, the sweat's getting wicked away by the merino wool. And wearing them, coupling them with the Vivo Barefoot, it's just been amazing. Also just looking after my feet generally, making sure that I give them some tender love and care because they are my soles. Having said that, I did actually walk through my boots, a hole in my boots. So had to get another pair of tracker textiles. But we are talking about, again, nearly 700 miles done. I have had sore feet, don't get me wrong, but not like sore feet because of rubbing, because of plantar fasciitis, that kind of thing. It's more been because my feet are just like stooning, that like more than an ache, but less than, a sharp pain, because they've been pummeling concrete. If I've had a lot of miles to do on concrete or tarmac, my feet will complain. I might have to take a paracetamol. But I remember one night falling asleep, and that kind of moment between sleeping and waking, well, I was dreaming about standing barefoot on snow. Oh, snow, blessed snow. I had golf balls. I just wanted a golf ball to roll around the sole of my foot, just like ease that, that tension. But by morning, like a phoenix arising from the ashes, they were good to go again. Right, Chris was actually also asking if I noticed it getting warmer as I travelled southwards because I'm doing it so gradually. Yes, generally speaking. However, when I started in Scotland, the whole of Scotland, basically about a tiny bit of drizzle on day 3, it was warm. And in fact, it was pretty hot, actually, right into England. And then it got cold. Just the weather throughout the country got cold, it got wet, it got windy. And that was generally in County Durham and Yorkshire. It got like that. But, I would notice like slight differences coming from Swaledale down into Wensleydale, where Aysgarth was, is still there. I really noticed the change in temperature because I was coming at a completely different altitude, but also different, it's like a limestone environment, with, the vegetation and so forth. So it felt like I was coming in the tropics when I came into Wensleydale. Then it got really humid when I was in Derbyshire, around about Matlock. Very humid. I mean, I had a heat rash and it just wasn't very pleasant. And then the heat started again and it got warmer and warmer. But answering your question, Chris, I think it's more that, like everywhere in the country has been hot at the same time, but it has been hotter and closer and less air circulating, more polleny as I've gone further south. And I can prove that because there has been like a day where people back home have said, I've said something about it being hot and they've said, oh, it's been really hot here. And it's been maybe 21 degrees, whereas I was walking 29 degrees heat. So it is quite a big difference. Also, there's more beasties. I got bitten in the face. Well, this beastie landed on my cheek and just stayed there. And I was like, get off, because I didn't want to touch it in case it was a wasp or something, and it bit me, and it was bleeding, you know. So it's more exotic as you get further south. And it was somewhere around about Worcester, or just after Worcester, where, you know, I see roadkill, and it's so sad when I walk past all these squished things. And there was a snake, so it's the first time I'd ever seen a roadkill snake before. So yeah, it's definitely down in the tropics now. Frida asked, am I homesick? I'll answer that tactfully. I miss Rob, my husband, and I do miss Bumble and Beatrice, my guinea pigs. But no, not one bit, not at all. I am not homesick at all. In fact, I'm quite sick of the thought of having to come home again at the moment. But I'm not meaning like seeing people or all the rest of that. I just mean I feel like I'm going home in a way, a kind of spiritual home. So no, not homesick at all. Just enjoying the journey, enjoying all the people that I meet and the places, and just thriving. Thank you. L'Oreal was asking if my route had gone to plan. Basically, has things been the way I planned it? Basically spot on, apart from minor deviations. Like, for example, some of the routes that I've been following, I've had to maybe cut off a bit and like take a more direct route because of time, and because maybe the route it's quite unwieldy. And whereas, like, for example, the St Wilfrid's Way, there was a wee bit where I just struck out on the road to Hexham because I didn't have the time to go kind of back on myself and follow, like, I think it was the route up to Jedburgh, because it meant I'd have to go north again. And, you know, I'm not really following the St Wilfrid's Way per se. I'm using the way as a means of getting to my ultimate destination. So I've had to do that in places. Same with the Severn Way. The Severn Way, there has been parts of it where I can't actually get physically through. As you maybe saw from my videos, I was getting scratched and torn and everything, so I might have to get on the road. The other day, I did a 19-mile walk, basically so that I could get to Oldbury on Severn before nightfall, and so I could have time for my dinner. So I struck out on the road again, but that's the only sort of deviations I've had to make. In Scotland, there was a couple of times in Fife and earlier on, well, actually day one, where I didn't quite manage the amount of miles that I wanted to get through, you know, because it was far more miles than I'd thought. But there was no problem there. I just ended up having to get to my accommodation, and then the next day I went back to where I left off and then made up the deficit. So yeah, it's been spot on. Barbara was asking about kit. Asking, was there anything that I didn't need that I'd taken with me? And also, was there anything that I wanted apart from my lovely husband, she said, who is her poster. Barbara, probably just the emergency stuff I need to have, like my whistle and my foil blanket. Although I did panic and ask Rob to send me gaiters and running leggings. Which he did, and then about 2 weeks later I sent them back because I was managing with waterproof trousers and running leggings, too hot, too clingy. So, but they came and they went. I jettisoned a lot of stuff before I started day 3 with a big rucksack on. Migraine tablets, torch, oh gosh, I mean, sunglasses, things that you'd be horrified that I jettisoned. But yeah, that was a day that I was totally on my own with my stuff. Oh, and yeah, after day 3, after Andy kindly was my mule and carried my rucksack all around St Haven up to Dunotter, I actually had to jettison the camping stuff, make the decision that I wasn't going to be able to camp. It was too hot, too heavy, but also I didn't have my pack properly adjusted until I got to Edinburgh, and that was 200 miles, so it was painful. My tent socks I kept hold of for a little while, but then ended up sending them home. What I need, apart from my lovely husband, well, actually, I've needed him actually a lot to help sort out technical things. And he sent me medication and another t-shirt, but there's nothing else I wish I had apart from the book that I had wanted to take and had to jettison. I've been trying to read bits of books online, and not online, I mean, you know, reading on the mobile phone, and it just doesn't work for me. I can't get into them. But kindly, my friend Claire that I was staying with has lent me a Terry Pratchett, very slim book, so at least I have something to turn the pages of. The stuff that I actually has been my best friend has been the poles I've borrowed from Vicky, and also that's Merry and Pippin, and the rucksack, my Deuter rucksack has been wonderful. Rob, masquerading as me, asked if the hardest part was leaving my lovely husband behind, and yes, I mean, of course it is, but it's great that we have this time apart and I'm pursuing my own goals. My own goal is, I don't like that word, it sounds so business minded. My own destiny sounds too wishy-washy, but I have my own, it's my own pilgrimage, it's my own quest, so that's just the way it is. But yeah, that is the hardest part, back home, worrying. But also, like, that last minute cancellation when I was having a hard day, that was hard. Also, days off, they're quite hard because they're more aimless, even though there's something I want to do. They're apparently for rest, but they're hard ones. And Chloe asked, who do I miss the most, Rob or the guinea piggies, Bumble and Beatrice? Chloe, why did you have to ask that question? That's worse than my husband. Yeah, Rob. Yeah, it is Rob. But I really dearly miss my little piggies too and want to give them a cuddle. But they are a bit wilder, these two piggies. They're a little bit more, they're a bit less up for cuddles than, for example, Tiffany and some of the others. But yeah, I really, really miss them too. I'm going to leave it there. I have got 3 more questions to answer. One is about the highlight. One is about, did I see this as some sort of way of rejuvenating? And there's 4 questions. What keeps me motivated and what have I learned about myself? So I will do that later. Thank you.